At the very bottom of Africa lies the most dangerous sea in the world. For centuries, sailors have hesitated to pass through here. This area is known as the graveyard of ships. It is said that even today, sunken ships are often seen here. Among all these stories, the most famous is the tale of the Flying Dutchman. Many people claim to have seen this ship which disappeared in the 17th century, even today. But even if we set aside the stories and look at it logically, you'll find thousands of sunken ships in this area. This area is called the Cape of Good Hope. At first glance, this sea looks extremely beautiful, but for ships, it's nothing less than a death trap. Even today, in the era of GPS and massive container ships, many vessels avoid passing beneath Africa. But why is that? So let's find out the answer to this question in today's video. But before we start the video, I request all of you to please subscribe to the channel. A lot of research, time, and financial cost goes into making these videos, and your subscription is our biggest motivation. This sea, known as the place of good fortune, was a terrifying place for the first explorers who reached here. After hearing stories about this area, European sailors in the 15th century decided to venture here. In 1488, a Portuguese sailor named Bartolomeu Dias was the first to try to cross it. But what he experienced here was truly terrifying. Stormy winds tossed his ship from side to side, and his ship was on the verge of sinking. He barely escaped with his life from here and became the first European to sail around the bottom of Africa. He named this place the Cape of Storms because based on the weather he experienced here, that name seemed most fitting. But Bartolomeu's king in Portugal saw this place from a completely different perspective. He saw an opportunity here. He changed the name of this place to the Cape of Good Hope because this route led all the way to India, the land of spices and treasures, and after that, this area became a gateway for many empires. After the Portuguese, the Dutch passed through here, and then the British also came to Asia via this route. Their ships didn't just carry spices and silk from here, but also gold, slaves, and ivory. Every journey was making money, but every journey also carried the risk of death. So many ships went missing here that everyone started to believe something supernatural was going on. And this is where the story of the Flying Dutchman began. It is said that in the 1600s, a Dutch captain swore he would cross this sea from beneath Africa, but his ship too fell prey to these waters, and they say that even today his soul still wanders this sea. Because of these stories, ships started to avoid this place. Then, in the 19th century, an engineering miracle changed everything. In 1869, the Suez Canal was opened, which connected the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea through Egypt. For global trade, this was revolutionary. Now ships no longer had to travel thousands of kilometers around the bottom of Africa. Because of the Suez Canal, the journey between Europe and Asia was now shortened by 7,000 kilometers. Today, about 12% of the world's total trade. The world suffered losses worth billions of dollars. But the issue is that if the Suez Canal gets blocked, whether due to geopolitics, war, or some accident, then ships have to take the Cape of Good Hope route again. And that's exactly what's happening these days. Ever since the Yemeni Houthis started attacking container ships passing through the Red Sea. But the question is, why is this sea route so dangerous? The answer lies in the geography of this area. Actually, the Cape of Good Hope is the place where the Atlantic Ocean and the Indian Ocean meet. When two such massive oceans collide, very powerful waves are formed. The direction of these waves keeps changing repeatedly, which causes a lot of problems for ships here. Now add to this another thing called the Roaring Forties. These are very powerful winds that constantly blow around the land at a certain degree of latitude. These winds are so strong that they create waves in the ocean as tall as buildings. And during the winter, waves as high as 10 to 15 meters are very common here. Ships here bounce around as if they were toys, and sometimes storms can appear suddenly as well. Even today's modern steel ships, equipped with radar and the latest technology, are powerless against these waves. But the danger here doesn't come only from the waves. The coastline here is also very rough and rocky, and there is nowhere for ships to dock. In those days, when ships relied solely on the wind, traveling in these waters was almost impossible. Even a small mistake meant the ship would crash straight into the rocks and be shattered to pieces. That's why, even today, the wreckage of hundreds of ships lies in this area. But on this route, it's not just the Cape of Good Hope that's dangerous. Ships have to face even more threats. On the west coast of Africa lies Namibia's Skeleton Coast. The name itself must have given you an idea. For centuries, fog, storms, and powerful waves have destroyed many ships here. During the Second World War, a British ship named Dunedin was wrecked here, and all its passengers were stranded in this desert. On this route, when ships turn east, there is the Mozambique Channel between Madagascar and Africa. There are many storms here, and the wind speed is so high that it can toss ships around like pieces of paper. For centuries, sailors have feared this area just as much as the Cape of Good Hope. Even today, ships cross this sea with great caution because storms can arise at any moment. But even if a captain manages to escape the fog, waves, and storms, another fear awaits him ahead, and that fear is pirates. In the early 2000s, the sea near Somalia became the most dangerous point in the world. Pirates riding in small boats, armed with rifles and rocket launchers, would hijack massive tankers and extort millions of dollars from them. In 2011, because of these pirates, the world economy suffered a loss of $7 billion. Because container ships had to hire guards, change their routes, and seek support from the Navy. Later, NATO, the European Union, the US, and the Indian navies tightened surveillance here, after which piracy decreased. In fact, out of the 135 kidnappings that took place worldwide in 2020, 130 happened right here in the Gulf of Guinea. And that's exactly what makes it the most dangerous maritime area in the world. Even in 2024, around 12 crew members were kidnapped, while 126 were taken hostage. A huge ransom is demanded in exchange for these kidnappings. These pirates once took $300,000 from a Chinese ship before releasing it. That's why the entire route around Africa is still extremely dangerous today. First, you have to face the treacherous seas at the Cape of Good Hope. Then ahead lie the rocky coastline of the Skeleton Coast and the storms of the Mozambique Channel. And even if you manage to cross all this, the threat of pirates still remains ahead. But there's also a political angle to this whole story. The seas surrounding Africa are not just important for trade, but they are also crucial military and strategic zones. For example, in the Red Sea, which is north of the Cape of Good Hope, Yemeni Houthis are continuously attacking container ships. Since mid-November 2023, 90 ships have been targeted, of which 30 were significantly damaged and 2 sank. These attacks have had a severe impact on the traffic passing through the Suez Canal. At the beginning of 2024, the traffic passing through this canal had dropped by 50% compared to last year. Ships have changed their routes and are once again using the route below Africa. That's why this area has once again become very important for global shipping and trade. The major powers of the world are well aware of how sensitive this region is. That's why the navies of America, China, and Europe constantly patrol here. Djibouti, located near the Horn of Africa, has also become a hub for international militaries. There are several foreign military bases here, including a Chinese base. The struggle to control these seas continues even today. Just as centuries ago Bartolomeo Diaz and Vasco da Gama tried to do, the route passing beneath Africa is both essential and dangerous. On one hand, the world's oil, gas, and cargo pass through here to other continents, but this very route is also filled with dangers. That's why, even today, despite having modern ships, captains prefer the Suez Canal route. Of course, this route has more traffic, but it is still better than the dangerous Cape of Good Hope route. So instead of passing beneath Africa, ships take the Suez